3 years ago, I did all stage fatalities ranked from the worst to the best, and ever since then, many of you have been asking me to cover the PS2 era traps featured in Deception and Armageddon, and after popular demand and wanting to put some finishers back on the channel, we're going to be looking at every single death trap from Deception and Armageddon and ranking them from the worst to the best.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Nick here, and welcome to, or welcome back to the channel. You've been requesting it for some time, and you're gonna get it. Today, we're gonna be looking at all of the traps featured in Deception and Armageddon. These are very similar to the stage fatalities that I've covered beforehand. However, these can be triggered anytime during the match, instead of just at the end when the finish him state is presented. And for this video, I'm only gonna be covering the ones that can be triggered at any time, not ones that double as stage fatalities, such as like the Cocoon in Prison, and the Bell Tower Spikes, which were already featured in all stage finishers ranked. With that, let's be like Admiral Akbar and go...
It's a trap!
As we rank all 29 of these stage traps from the worst to the best. Taking the bottom spot goes to the Kwaitan Palace from Deception. This lizard human lame trap sees our victim fall into lava. It's not that falling into lava is a bad idea, it just looks kind of incomplete, judging by the fact that you can see their model become static as it sinks deeper into the lava. It just looks incomplete and bland in comparison to the other traps we'll be looking at. For a lava-based ender, this one isn't hot at all.
Flawless victory.
Speaking of hot things that aren't hot, the Armory's second trap, being the lava pool, lands in at 28. I can say almost the same thing with the previous entry, but there are a few saving graces over the bottom spot. For one, they add more smoke to the victim when they fall in, and their screams stop when they start drowning in the lava. Third, even though they sink into the lava while being static, they dip in like a tortilla chip faster than the last one, making it a bit snappier. Overall, still not a favorite of mine, but it's smokin'.
Smoke wins. Flawless victory.
Number 27, and we're going to be looking at the third lava-based trap, this being the Battle Arena one. This trap is better in my opinion to the other two. For starters, it feels the most complete where the opponent flails instead of being static as they sink. Outside of that, it still has the polish of the Armory lava pool version. Still not an amazing one per se, but at least it's not bad enough where you want to erupt in rage.
Scorpion wins.
Let's move away from lava-inspired traps and move to some stabbies, starting with the Outworld Spire from Armageddon. This sees you knocking the opponent off the banister and into a chandelier. I always thought it was knock the chandelier down, not knock them into it. Either way, they get impaled. Pretty simple, but weird that the fire is just there for aesthetic purposes and not actually burning them. Either way, it drops in at 26. Dragoning our way to 25 with the Dragon King's Temple. This one is unique as you need to stun the opponent, then quickly hit them again with a heavy strike to knock them onto some spikes. It's pretty basic, but I do like the extra step that makes it stand out from the other ones. It's also just very straightforward, nothing too crazy or anything like that. Besides that, it's fine, nothing too special. At least it's quick and snappy and it doesn't drag on.
Flawless victory.
At number 24, we're revisiting one of the most iconic stage fatalities in the entire series, the Deadpool. When this is turned into a trap, you knock your opponent into a dip and it sees them recreate the MK2 classic, down to the long scream, splash, and static skeleton rising. My favorite little cherry on top is a little "aww" sound you hear from MK2. Simple but effective. Climbing up to the top of the Evil Tower at number 23. Yet another MK2 stage, but this one finally getting a trap. You hit the opponent into a vortex and they explode. Because Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I'm happy it's not another Sky Temple, as that just would have been lazy, but the explosion is so weird that it's unexpected. Not really fully sure if I do like the explosion approach. I think I just would have liked it if they just got pulled into that wormhole and died or something like that. I can't really place it any higher than 23, but it's still unique and tried to do something different.
Marina wins. Flawless victory.
Another stage from Deception, and another set of 3 traps in one stage at the lower mines. The first one being the fire pit, probably the most tame of the 3. You knock them off the cliff as they fall for a bit, and a giant flame engulfs them. Honestly, this is just Mortal Kombat's version of the firing chair from Dr. Evil's boardroom. It's surprisingly tame, but it didn't really need to show off the final hit to sell the impact. The scream and the fire just does it perfectly. This trap just really turned up the heat.
Flawless victory.
At the legal drinking age number with Deception's Nexus stage. Also, a quick fun fact, the Nexus was originally meant to be the background for the Create a Fighter interface for Mortal Kombat Armageddon, before being replaced with the Pyramid of Argus. Anyway, you knock your opponent into the void to never be seen again. It's a great idea in concept, but just good in execution. The only real downside I have with this one is that the pillars can get in the way of the presentation, so you can't really see the full effect of what happens. Besides that, this is one finisher you should never avoid.
Ermac wins. Flawless victory.
Entering the top 20, we're splashing into the second battle arena trap, the Deadpool. This one plays out differently than the one that we saw prior. Instead of a faithful recreation, we get a new adaptation where the opponent struggles for a bit before rising to the surface with their skeleton drifting apart. A great way to update the classic, but far from being my favorite Deadpool fatality.
Scorpion wins. Flawless victory.
Things are getting hotter at 19 as we look at the Firewell, which was heavily updated from Mortal Kombat 4. And yes, Murdoink, I do agree with you, please free MK4. You'd assume fire would be the element to finish the opponent, but you'd be wrong. Instead, you knock them onto the belt as they're dizzy, they get crushed into a paste. The 3D flying at the scream does scream 2000s to me, and could even be a tribute to the MK4 fatalities where stuff would just get thrown at the camera. But it wouldn't be the last trap we'll be seeing do that.
Meat wins. Flawless victory.
Headed back to the battle arena as we take a look at the bed of spikes trap. This, we've got the pit fatality at home, sees them get knocked onto a spike, then struggling, and then as they give up, they fall deeper onto the spike. Something that helps make it stand out a bit from the other spike-based traps from this game. Overall, quick and to the point, like a spike would be.
Scorpion wins.
Speaking of mentioning the pit, we're looking at the pit from Mortal Kombat Deception, a fun and faithful recreation of the MK Classic OG stage finisher. Now with more camera shots and a nice angle showing the opponent looking at the spike as they slide deeper down it. They didn't add too much to it, I'm just happy they just retained its charm, and if they made all of these dumb unnecessary changes to it, then it could have been very pitiful.
Wins. Flawless victory.
Headed over to the Golden Desert for number 16 with the first of 2 traps. We're still following the trend of falling onto spikes, this time being a stalagmite. After knocking them off the ledge, the camera tracks them as they fall onto a stalagmite, where the others would show them struggle for a bit. This goes for that MK brutality by knocking them onto the spike and some organs pop out being stuck at the tip. It's pretty gross, but it's a good way to innovate this type of finisher. Leave it to the Golden Desert to show off its stalagmites.
Wins. Flawless victory.
Things are getting a bit woody as we move to the lumber mill at number 15. Armageddon included more grinder-based enders, where the opponent is mashed into a paste with their head flying at the camera. And this one is no different. It's gross, super bloody, but also extremely snappy. Quick and right to the point to get the job done.
Cabal wins.
Revisiting the Golden Desert for its second trap, this being the Statue Crush. After knocking the opponent hard into a wall, a bunch of rocks start raining down on the opponent. All of a sudden, a giant statue falls on top of them without the opponent having any clue what hit them. Funny enough, this trap really reminds me of that Buddha statue death from Final Destination 5. Now, my real only complaint with this is that I wish that they looked up last minute to realize they were doomed or something like that. Besides that, this one rocks.
Wins. Flawless victory.
From deserts to 5-star resort excursions, we're moving to Yin Yang Island from Deception. A beautiful place I'd love to visit during the day, but a nightmare as soon as the moon rises. After knocking them into the water at night, a school of piranha eat the opponent until there's nothing left, like me with Thai food or Rain with Grandma Bob's pizza. Quite a disturbing one, and one of the only traps to involve some creature eating the opponent. Like human flesh to piranha, this trap is quite the treat.
Sub-Zero wins. Flawless victory.
Doing time and being detained at number 12 with the Dark Prison Trap. After looking at all the combatants in their cells, you can demonstrate them the style of execution they'll endure as soon as you knock them onto a platform. As the opponent slowly rises up, 2 spike walls close in on them, trying to execute them like Indiana Jones or a pit witch from Army of Darkness. They try to reverse the walls like they do in RoboCop 2, but it's too late as they just explode when they get crushed. It's pretty simple and quite memorable for that reason. It's also nice to see this referenced in MKX with Tremor's fatality. The Dark Prison Trap will leave the viewers in shackles.
Wins.
We're laser focused in at number 11 with Quan Chi's Fortress. After seeing this stage appear in Deadly Alliance, I always wondered how cool it would have been to knock your opponent into the lasers at the bottom of the stage. Well, one game later, that dream became a reality. You just simply knock them off, and something a little odd is that they just hover for about a second before falling below. They reach the lasers and demonstrate what happens if you fail the laser room in Resident Evil 4. They get cut to bits. For being fun and creative, it's also one of the most bloodless traps in the entire game. It's also really cool to see Quan Chi install some real cutting-edge technology to his fortress.
Tanya wins. Flawless victory.
Yeah, I nailed it. Alright, we're entering the top 10 and we're looking at a fan favorite with the falling cliffs from Deception. For simplistic sake, I'm just going to lump all 3 of the variants into one as they result in the same outcome. If you wondered why fighting on a stage where it's collapsing isn't a good idea, your opponent will show you why. Whether it's being knocked off, standing at the ledge as it's collapsing, or both of you slipping off, you'll be met with a really long fall onto some rocky spikes. I honestly love the superior angle as it's separating itself from the other spike-based traps, and I like how they try to pull themselves off the spike to stay alive, but it's not enough as they just collapse. In terms of presentation and how it's framed, I think this one's really good, even for how simple it is. I can understand why people love this one so much.
Finish him. Raiden wins. Flawless victory.
It's been a hot minute, but we're looking back at reinvented MK2 stages and going to the purple-lit desolate wastelands of Outworld, the Wastelands. Remember how the original stage showed the aftermath of a war? Well, now you participate in one with catapults. This trap sees you use your opponent as catapult ammunition as they get shot into a tower, and what I find very unique about this one is that it doesn't result in the body going boom, but they just slide down like a cartoon character hitting a wall. Also, please look at the behind the scenes of the voice actors doing screaming for this game. They highlight this trap and it shows how much fun VO can be. For that, the Wasteland trap catapults itself into the top 10.
Liu Kang wins flawless victory.
Striking in at number 8 with the Sky Temple, yet another iconic death trap from the PS2 era, and for good reason. This one sees you knocking the opponent off a banister and they take a really long fall until they splatter on the ground. And you know that it's Mortal Kombat because as soon as they hit the floor, they turn into paste and explode everywhere, even with the signature head hitting the camera. And my favorite part is, depending on which character you choose, the voice lines will alter a bit. My favorite is the one where you hear the person falling go, "Ah, this is gonna suck, ah," and as they fall and splatter on the ground. Super funny, super amazing, and I guarantee they had a fun recording this one and animating this one. Like hitting the floor after falling off a temple, it's quite flattering. Let's revisit the lower mines for the second one of these traps, this being the Crusher. Whereas the other Crusher from the Firewell just showed them getting crushed and the head just flew at the camera, this one goes for a different approach as it has a giant spinning cog. You hit them at the bottom and it shoots all of their gibs up above, kinda like a bloody, gross fountain. I honestly do love how the camera pans down to up to show the aftermath of the opponent sliding in and all of the bits just flying above. Definitely a highlight when it comes to the Deception traps, but it's not my favorite of the lower mines ones.
Flawless victory.
At number 6, that honor goes to the Dragon Head. Whenever you load up this map, you're greeted with this creepy dragon head at the back of the lower mines, and you always thought, damn, that thing looks really creepy. It'd be a shame if someone ended up falling onto the teeth of that. Well, after you knock your opponent on the teeth, they kinda sit there for a second and the mouth quickly shuts, splitting them in half. I really like how instant this one is. It's almost like when you accidentally brush like the roof of a gator's mouth and it immediately traps shut. That's what this one is. Except it's just a giant metal dragon. I don't know why this one stuck with me so much. A lot of it has to do with the sound design and then the heavy breathing after the opponent split in half. Like the other trap involving a dragon, this one jumps ahead several placements.
Hotaru wins flawless victory.
We're finally cracking the top 5 by looking at the stage that has been featured in all of Deception's marketing, the Slaughterhouse. Now there are 2 solid reasons I love this one. 1, the framing and cinematography, and 2, the violence. As you reach the lower floor of the Slaughterhouse, you're greeted with this weird little torture device against the wall. After kicking your opponent into it, they start turning the cogs, and after it turns just slightly, they start flailing in a bunch of pain and start screaming. And as the cogs start spinning rapidly, the camera quickly shifts over to the wall to show that it's painted with their blood. Honestly, one of my favorite traps in the entire game, and it effectively sells the violence here. Honestly, if they're going to bring back stage fatalities in the future of Mortal Kombat, please bring back the Slaughterhouse and this stage finisher. It would be amazing.
Flawless victory.
At number 4, we're looking at our 4th and final battle arena trap, the Grinder. Whereas some of the other grinders, like in the lumber mill, just kinda cause the opponent to just rip apart, this one goes for something completely different and extremely unique in presentation. Whereas the other grind-based finishers instantly finish the opponent, this one actually makes them kinda suffer for a little bit, which is completely twisted, morbid, and disgusting. The gears close, get stuck, reverse, close even deeper, and then the third time it completely completely crushes the opponent. I like when you look at each of the cogs, you can see where it pressed on the opponent. You can see the deeper prints of their body. Something completely gross, and this grinder is probably one of my favorite ones. I have no complaints with it, and it doesn't grind my gears. So good.
Flawless victory.
We're finally at the top 3 and looking at one of the last traps from Armageddon, this being the Crusher from the Armory. Yep, once you saw this one in Armageddon for the first time, you knew it would be placed this high. This stage now features a giant rolling rock crusher on a conveyor belt, and if the opponent gets knocked onto it, they're in for a real smashing time. The opponent immediately gets up and tries running away like they're in a Looney Tunes cartoon, but they trip over their own feet and they get crushed. Honestly, this is one of those finishers that only fits in this era of Mortal Kombat where it's slightly goofy but also brutal at the same time. Another fun attention to detail is that you can see the print of their body along the rock crusher, and every time that it rolls against a conveyor belt you can just see it spurts out a little bit of blood. Kinda gross, but also one of those dark humorous ones.
Flawless victory.
Our runner-up goes to another remade classic from the arcade era, this going to the subway from Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I've complained in the past that the arcade era of the subway was a little lackluster. I just wish that they at least conveyed some emotion or reacted before getting hit by the train. Well, this one answered my call, and it actually does a lot more in presentation, which makes me like it a whole lot more. I like how the opponent gets slammed into the wall, and as they're slowly getting up, they look up, realize a train's there, scream for a quick second, and then bam, they get hit. It's extremely simple and effective, and mind the gap.
Jax wins. Flawless victory.
Taking the top spot is a fan favorite from Mortal Kombat Deception and appearing in Armageddon, the Hell's Foundry. A favorite of both mine, my brother's, and friend of the channel Cobra Kai. This sees hot metal being pressed into frames, and if you knock your opponent into this, you're met with one of the most iconic traps in MK history. They fall onto the hot metal and start flailing and try crawling back to safety. But just before they make it, it's too late and the press comes down, crushing them into the metal. They even let you sit on this one for a while, because as soon as the metal press is lifted, you see their body imprinted into it, and it's just a charcoaled mess. This one is just brutal all the way, extremely creative, quick, and snappy. All things I love to see when it comes to these traps. If they ever bring back Hell's Foundry in a future Mortal Kombat stage, please revive this as a stage fatality. The fans deserve it. Overall, Hell's Foundry is the best trap of all of Mortal Kombat.
Baraka wins. Flawless victory.
And there you have every single stage trap from Armageddon and Deception, ranked from worst to best. Which one was your favorite and which one was your least favorite? Be sure to comment down below and let's have a fun discussion about it. And let's keep this discussion a little bit more interesting. And which one of these would you like to see brought back in a future Mortal Kombat title? Personally, I'd love to see Hell's Foundry make a return. Also, I'd like to apologize about not doing finishers ranked on the channel for some time. I want to explain deeper about that in a 2025 video content update, so stay tuned for that coming in a few days. Let's just say that finishers ranked is coming back to the channel, so I hope you're excited for that. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like, subscribing, and sharing for more content like this. Your support truly means a ton, and I can't thank you enough. And also, let's try and reach 50,000 subscribers by mid-2025. And if you did see these social posts that I put on Twitter or on my community tab, you already know which project is next. I'm going to be covering some fun Mortal Kombat fan theories, so come back to that on Monday, January 27th at 8 a.m. EST. And I won't be alone on this one. I will be having a special guest join me, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for your continuous support. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Fight!